If any of you are not aware, in the extreme past and the before time, there was a tactic employed by both people who are prosecuting cases and defending cases to try to wear down the judge, the jury, their opponent, where they would make the case drag out on purpose. Now, for a defendant, this may or may not be a good idea, but for a prosecutor, it's a really bad idea because it demonstrates to the court, and also in some cases to the jury, that you're stalling because you cannot provide proof. The burden of proof concept, the axiom of it, mostly is followed, and it's a good thing that it is, but it's based on a really simple idea. Why would you bring a case if you don't have any reason to prove that you can prove that exist, any real evidence that someone has done something wrong? Now, aside from what we see actually happening in the world where people just accuse someone of something and say, go ahead and defend yourself on the internet, which is what we are dealing with here. In reality, if you're in a courtroom and you accuse somebody of something and refuse to provide evidence, I hold people to a similar standard. If you accuse anybody without evidence, whether it's Bill Gates or Bill O'Reilly, your accusation's bullshit. If you don't have articulatable, understandable, or any evidence of any kind, no one should listen to you. And you should be told that that's the reason. You failed to prove your point. You are not prosecuting a case if you're not providing some way to prove it. If you fail to prove your case, then the case should be dismissed because it has no evidence. You have provided no evidence. You've essentially thrown in the towel. And if a prosecutor pulled any kind of maneuver in a courtroom where they tried to stall, or they wasted the court's time, or just harangued people, a court, and specifically the judge, rightfully would say you're not allowed to prosecute the case because the case is dismissed because you have no evidence. Failure to providing evidence doesn't just mean that the evidence was bad or that was debunked. It can be just because you refused to provide it. And you can be barred from bringing the court case again or even arguing the subject matter as to whether it should be barred because you've refused to provide evidence. Now, some people decided, again, in the before time, to use this tactic that works for defense sometimes, to bring someone to court, accuse them of something outrageous or benign sounding, and then proceed to waste the court's time and try to make it towards expensive or time-consuming. Terrorizing. It's called paper terrorism. It's normally done by just filing motion after motion and just making it an endless pile. Courtrooms treat the accuser that does this very negatively. And some people decided to show others how to do this, maybe not knowing, but at least originally, but definitely knowing later on, that it would result in them being banned from being in the courtroom, being legally forbidden from bringing court cases, and in general telling them, you're not able to get away with this anymore because we're not going to let you do it because the court doesn't have to put up with you. Now, the immediate response that some of these people got from the courtroom after it was done enough times in many courts across the country and in other countries was much more rapid. But they would pay someone to show them how to do it. And the individual doing this explained to people originally, and he's dead now, many years ago, that you're harassing the court hoping they'll drop the case. He was very honest about being dishonest this way. It was an attempt to heckle the court into submission. And again, this was a tactic that was used by defense and prosecutors sometimes, but after this kind of stuff kept getting worse. Most of this was done by rich people who could hire one lawyer after another, who were willing to risk having, being disbarred or whatever. But if you're not a rich person, you can't really do that. And it has to be because there's a huge amount of money involved and you're willing to put up with the court costs, because you do have to pay the court costs. Or you can be a deadbeat and get in even more trouble. But the problem with this is that very shortly, 1960s and 70s, this stopped working entirely. But people still sold this idea to people who were desperate to win a court case about a stinking parking ticket. A very bad move, as it would add them to the list of people who are barred from ever bringing a court case without getting permission from the court, which means they wouldn't be able to bother the entire legal system, just one judge. Now, this is so long ago that several of the people who were profiteers of this, false profiters, died. And I treat their memory as I should appropriately. They were criminals. They were really shitty people, and they made it to where it was even harder for a person to show up in court and independently, represent themselves. Because the majority of people who did this after a while represented themselves. And courtrooms got really antagonistic to people like you and me walking in and saying, no, I'm representing myself because this is a fairly simple case and there's just some simple problems here to solve. And courtrooms, would jump the gun and, file a complaint against you or whatever they would do. And more importantly, none of this had to happen. But anyway, I treat the individuals who are the grandfather of these paper terrorism or disorder in the court behaviors, I treat them as they should be. Dead or alive, they're assholes because they've ruined it for a lot of people. They also took a lot of money from people. They were genuinely manipulative thieves. So someone says, bro, he's dead. I don't think I need to tell anybody how disrespectful that is, because I'm saying this sort of thing in one of my videos. Now, this person is going to imply that they're going to harass me, terrorize me, and tell everybody I'm an asshole. But let's go on. I feel like I should keep track of you so that when you die, I can tell everybody that you're the shield, shill, the shill, who tried to herd everybody away from the concept of sovereignty so that they could be property and you could make a paycheck. Tell me I'm wrong. Now, obviously, this person has decided to, and this is not a very hidden accusation and or thing. This person is going to sick a group of people on me. This person is going to stalk me and fuck with me. And this isn't my first rodeo. The last time I had to deal with this, I ended up finding out that the person who was doing it is a convicted child molester. And his face and video is staying up, and he's going to be in jail for another, I think it's 10 years. And this isn't the first time something like this has happened. I got harassed by someone who was impersonating being a metro cop of one town or another. Another person who was impersonating being National Guardsman. I've had this happen before. But in your case, you're just claiming to be a sovereign citizen, conspiracy theorist, blah, blah, blah. But I feel I should keep track of you, and I'll tell everybody when you die that you're a shill. Because, and then we're going to get to your actual assertion here. Me telling everyone they're being lied to about sovereign citizen should equal fuck with the court and be an asshole on the internet. You're equating with me saying that they're property. This is based on the assumption that he's making that since a majority of the laws in the United States deal with how people deal with property, because it's a capitalist system, that all laws somehow treat every human being as property. This is a central concept that is completely wrong, since our legal system also includes actual laws that have nothing to do with finances or property. In fact, they're very, very separate and should be. So I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I don't care what you think, and you're not going to listen anyway, and you're threatening to harass me. And then, of course, he corrects himself, because he originally said, you're the shield who has tried to herd everybody. And you misspelled herd, I think. So let's go on. Calling me a paid social manipulator who only sees dollar signs. This is the shill complaint, or shill accusation. So let's see how many check boxes we've hit so far. The person's accusing me of getting money for all of this when obviously I'm not. This is such an old accusation, it's dumb. He's claiming that all law has to do with financial transactions, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't apply to people for some reason, when the immediate thing these individuals do is they say a law that obviously has nothing to do with money must, so that they can say it doesn't apply to them. That's not how it works. Next, the person has also decided to say, prove me wrong. No, the accuser, that would be you, have to prove yourself right, and you have not done so. You're accusing me of accepting money for all of this when I'm not, and you have provided no evidence. Not that I'm trying to point out how obvious of an example this is, but you have failed to present your case, and you are a person who has presented nothing of merit. Your argument has no merit in court is equivalent to telling somebody you're batshit crazy. Let's move on. With the irreverence you like to display, I only do this specifically to assholes like you who have no reason to be treated with respect, just like a couple of dead people you seem to idolize. They were shysters. I don't think that there is any doubt as to the level of empathy you have for other people. Other people, yes. You, no, because you're an asshole. You've come to my channel to make a not-so-veiled threat, and you haven't said that you wish that I was dead. Hey, you could do the Christian thing, which is the same thing as damning, by saying, I'll pray for you, and then they don't say, to die. So anyway, let's go on to the next. And I have a lot of empathy for people. I don't have empathy for you because you're an asshole. I'm sure you know good and right what authority a real learned groomed, don't use that word, sovereign commands in the world of District of Columbia law. Okay. Yes, I am very much aware of it. They laugh you out of court, forbid you from arguing because you're trying to waste their time, and in your case, most likely you're the one bringing the court case, refusing to provide evidence just like you've done here, and get treated with irreverence, as you call it, or in my case, just saying you're a fucking idiot. And that's it. So, yeah, I know good and well what you get as a groomed sovereign. Wow, that's a wording you shouldn't use. And Washington, D.C., irrelevant legal statutes they won't call a law. They are called laws. The assertion that people make like this is really simple. These are laws. They're called statutes because it has to do with how they're created. Therefore, you're not calling a law. But we just did. No, you didn't, because I say you didn't. That's about the strength of this. Find me a piece of paper where D.C. rules for chattel are called laws. I'm not making the assertion that anybody would call rules for chattel laws, but they may have been. But your assertion here, which is asked backwards, is that laws are rules for chattel. They're not. We have laws in this country that are what you would call a real law. When you don't like them, you claim that they're laws only for financial reasons, or that all laws in the United States must be for financial reasons, so they can't apply to you. This doesn't matter what you say, however, because this argument has no merit and is ignored in court. And this is a false equivalency if you're curious about your mistake. They are not laws because you said so. Unless you are someone's piece of property and don't have rights, they are not laws. You're claiming that a law that applies to you, that is being applied to you that you don't like, must not be a law because if it does, that means you don't have rights. You equate having rights with being invulnerable from another person telling you no, or leave my house, or don't put your hands down my pants. Please look up the word grooming and don't use that word that way again. Yes, it got flagged for that reason. I mean, I didn't flag your fucking comment. YouTube did. Next. Common law is the only law. No, it's not. I mean, that's really all there is to it. It just isn't. We have multiple layers of law. We actually have laws in the United States that only apply to corporations. And we have laws that only apply to financial transactions and other laws that only apply to business transactions. But we also have laws, they're all called laws, that apply to people and their interaction with each other and limitations they have, like you're not allowed to do things to me and I'm not allowed to do things to you, and that's it. The Bill of Rights in the Constitution grants sovereign rights. No. Who can be granted sovereign rights, but only sovereign human beings? No, because you're starting with an assertion that doesn't exist. And then you said, and the bill, and then a bunch of dots. The Bill of Rights, yes. I think you had a typo there. You might be using a cell phone. At least they didn't caps lock the shit out of it. That's pretty good. So let's review. Everything you said here has told me that you're an extremely typical sovereign citizen. You waste an extreme amount of brain power on crap that has never worked. Never. And you will keep doing so, and there's nothing that we can do to fix you. And we don't have to care. Keep throttling off that cliff. Be a lemming. Thanks for watching. Good day. Good luck with that.